Ever notice how a bag of potato chips never has enough chips, but somehow always has enough air to float a small yacht? Yeah, well, life's got the same twisted sense of humor, except instead of chips, it's opportunities, and instead of air, it's, well, more air, disguised as excuses. You're lying there at 3 a.m., wondering if you're just a highly sophisticated accident riding a spinning rock through an indifferent universe, waiting for someone to drop a manual on how to adult successfully directly onto your confused face. Sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. Welcome to the human condition, where we're all just sophisticated apes pretending we know what we're doing while secretly hoping the universe will drop a winning lottery ticket in our lap. But here's the thing that'll mess with your head tonight. What if I told you that luck, that mysterious force you've been blaming for everything from your failed relationships to your career stagnation, doesn't actually exist? And yet, paradoxically, good luck is very, very real. I know. It sounds like philosophical word salad, but stick with me here because this rabbit hole goes deeper than Alice's wildest dreams. See, we humans have this adorable habit of outsourcing responsibility to invisible forces. Oh, I'm just unlucky, we say, as if luck is some cosmic DJ spinning tracks of misfortune specifically for our life soundtrack. It's like blaming gravity for dropping your phone. Technically accurate, but missing the point entirely. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story. Not just any story, but one that might just shatter your comfortable illusions about how the world really works. It's about two friends, let's call them Maya and Alex, who stumbled upon the most profound truth hiding in plain sight. That the difference between those who seem lucky and those who don't isn't written in the stars. It's written in their daily choices, their willingness to see opportunities disguised as problems, and their ability to plant seeds in gardens they may never fully see bloom. This isn't another feel-good fairy tale where everything works out because the protagonist believes hard enough. No, this is messier, funnier, and infinitely more real than that. It's about the beautiful chaos of being human in a universe that doesn't owe us anything, yet somehow provides everything we need, if we're paying attention. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and prepare to question everything you think you know about fortune, fate, and the strange alchemy that transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary outcomes. Because by the end of this journey, you might just realize that you've been sitting on a gold mine of potential, mistaking it for ordinary dirt. And if you find yourself nodding along, having those little aha moments, or even arguing with me in your head, well, that just means you're alive and thinking. And thinking people tend to do interesting things with stories like this. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But our story doesn't begin with philosophical musings. It begins with a very ordinary Tuesday that was about to become anything but ordinary. Maya Rodriguez had perfected the art of being professionally miserable. At 28, she'd mastered the eye roll, the exasperated sigh, and the ancient ritual of complaining about Monday on Sunday night. Her cubicle at Datadyne Corp was a shrine to mediocrity, complete with a motivational poster that read Persistence, featuring a kitten hanging from a branch, which she'd ironically hung upside down. Another rejection, she announced to her best friend Alex Chun, sliding a crumpled email printout across their usual coffee shop table. That's 17 this month. 17. I'm starting to think the universe has it out for me. Alex, whose perpetual optimism could power a small city, examined the rejection letter with the intensity of a forensic scientist. Wait, this is from that startup you applied to 3 months ago. The one where you said the interview went terribly. Define terribly, Maya said, stirring her coffee counterclockwise as if reversing time itself. I only blanked on every technical question, accidentally called the CEO sir when she's clearly a woman, and somehow managed to spill coffee on their prototype. So yeah, pretty standard Tuesday for Maya Rodriguez. Unluckiest person alive. Okay, but here's what's fascinating, Alex said, pulling out his notebook, a habit that had earned him the nickname, the human Google, among their friend group. You've applied to 73 jobs in the past year. 17 rejections means 56 companies haven't even responded. That's not unlucky. That's statistically predictable. Maya stared at him. Are you seriously going to mansplain my misfortune right now? No, I'm going to storytell your future. Alex grinned, ignoring her death glare. See, I've been researching this thing called the Lux surface area theory. Basically, The more surface area you expose to potential lucky events, the more likely they are to happen. You've been throwing applications into the void like messages in bottles. But what if we change the approach entirely? Oh great, here comes another one of your theories. Remember the networking through interpretive dance phase? That was one time, and you have to admit it was memorable. Alex laughed. But seriously, listen to this. Last week, I met this guy Marcus at a coffee shop. Not this one, the pretentious one downtown with the $17 lattes. He's a developer at this AI startup, right? We start talking about the ethics of artificial intelligence, which somehow leads to a discussion about whether robots could ever truly understand the existential dread of waiting in line at the DMV. Maya raised an eyebrow. Naturally, right? So we're deep in this philosophical rabbit hole when he mentions they're looking for someone with your exact skill set. But here's the kicker. They're not posting it anywhere. They're only hiring through referrals because they want someone who thinks differently, someone who questions the status quo. And you immediately thought of me because I question everything, including why we're friends, Maya deadpanned. Exactly. Your cynicism is actually a feature, not a bug. But here's where it gets interesting. Marcus says they specifically want someone who's failed a lot because failure breeds innovation. Your 17 rejections? They're not evidence of bad luck. They're evidence of resilience. Maya leaned back in her chair, processing this information with the skepticism of a defense attorney cross-examining a suspicious witness. So you're telling me that my cosmic string of failures has somehow prepared me for success? I'm telling you that luck is just preparation meeting opportunity, and you've been preparing whether you realized it or not. Every rejection taught you something. Every awkward interview refined your approach. You're not the same person who walked into that first interview 9 months ago. I'm definitely more bitter, Maya observed. More experienced. Alex corrected. And experience is just another word for accumulated wisdom, disguised as disappointment. Maya sat in contemplative silence, watching steam rise from her coffee cup like tiny ghosts of abandoned dreams. Okay, but even if I believe this surface area theory of yours, what's the actual plan? I can't just walk into this company and announce that my superpower is professional disappointment. Actually, you kind of can, Alex said, his eyes lighting up with the dangerous gleam of someone who just connected two seemingly unrelated dots. See, here's what most people don't understand about luck. It's not random. It's relational. It's about creating conditions where interesting things can happen. And the most interesting thing about you, Maya, is that you see problems everywhere other people see normal situations. That's called being a pessimist, Alex. No, that's called being a systems thinker. You spot inefficiencies, question assumptions, and refuse to accept that's just how things are done as a valid explanation for anything. Do you know how rare that is? Most people are sleepwalking through their careers. You're awake, alert, and slightly irritated by the absurdity of it all. Maya felt something shift inside her chest. Not quite hope, but maybe hope's cautious cousin, curiosity. So what you're saying is, I'm saying your so-called bad luck might actually be the best thing that ever happened to you. It just doesn't look like what you thought good luck was supposed to look like. And that's when Maya realized that sometimes the universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you need, wrapped in the strangest packaging. 3 days later, Maya found herself standing outside the offices of Neurotech Solutions, clutching a coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, and questioning every life choice that had led to this moment. The building looked like what would happen if Apple and Google had an architectural baby. All glass, steel, and the kind of aggressive minimalism that screamed, "We disrupt industries for fun." Alex had arranged the meeting through Marcus, but not in the way Maya had expected. Instead of a formal interview, it was supposed to be a casual conversation about the intersection of human psychology and machine learning, which sounded to Maya like code for, "We're going to ask you impossible questions and judge your soul." Maya Rodriguez, a woman in her early 30s, approached, wearing jeans and a t-shirt that probably cost more than Maya's rent. "I'm Sarah Kim, CTO. Marcus told me you're the person who thinks our entire industry is fundamentally flawed." Maya's prepared pleasantries evaporated. "Oh, did he also mention that I think most AI applications are just fancy autocomplete pretending to be revolutionary?" Sarah laughed. Not the polite interview laugh, but genuine amusement. "He did not, but that's even better. Come on, Let me show you our latest project. I want to see you tear it apart. They walked through an open office space that looked like a tech startup stereotype had exploded. Standing desks, bean bags, a slide that apparently led to nowhere, and enough monitors to launch a space program. Sarah led her to a conference room where a prototype device sat on the table, humming quietly. This is Aria, adaptive reasoning and intuition assistant, Sarah explained. It's designed to help people make better decisions by analyzing their behavioral patterns and suggesting optimal choices. We've been testing it for 6 months. Maya examined the device with the suspicious eye of someone who'd been burned by overpromised technology before. So it's a fortune teller that runs on algorithms. More like a mirror that shows you your own blind spots, Sarah replied. But here's our problem. It works too well. Our test users become dependent on it. They stop trusting their own judgment. Ah, Maya nodded. The GPS effect. The what? GPS effect, Maya explained, settling into consultant mode despite herself. Before GPS, people developed spatial intelligence. They learned to read landmarks, understand geography, build mental maps. Now we outsource navigation to our phones, and half the population can't find their way to the grocery store without digital assistance. You've created a decision-making GPS. Sarah's expression shifted from polite interest to genuine fascination. Keep going. Maya warmed to her subject, forgetting her nervousness entirely. Look, the fundamental flaw in most AI applications is that they assume optimization is the goal. But human behavior isn't optimizable, it's adaptable. We don't need to make perfect decisions. We need to make decisions we can live with and learn from. Your device is trying to eliminate uncertainty, but uncertainty is what makes us human. So you're saying our 6 months of development has been a waste of time? I'm saying you've been solving the wrong problem, Maya replied. Instead of making better decisions for people, help them understand why they make the decisions they do. Don't be their GPS, be their driving instructor. Sarah was quiet for a moment, then burst into laughter. Marcus said you'd be interesting, but this is exactly what we needed to hear. We've been so focused on the technology that we forgot about the psychology. It's a common mistake, Maya said, surprising herself with her own confidence. Engineers love elegant solutions, but human problems are inherently messy. You can't debug a personality. What would you do differently? Maya looked at the device again, her mind racing with possibilities. What if instead of giving people answers, Aria asked them better questions? What if it helped them explore the thinking behind their choices rather than optimizing the choices themselves? What if it was designed to make itself obsolete by teaching people to trust their own enhanced intuition? Sarah paused, processing the implications. That's completely backwards from our current approach. Sometimes backwards is forward, Maya shrugged. Look, I've spent the last year being rejected by companies because I don't fit their idea of what a candidate should look like. But maybe the problem isn't that I'm wrong for the job. Maybe the job descriptions are wrong for the actual work that needs to be done. Sarah leaned forward. Explain. Everyone wants someone with 5 years of experience doing exactly what they're already doing. But if you're trying to innovate, you don't need someone who's perfected the old way of thinking. You need someone who sees the assumptions everyone else takes for granted. And you see assumptions everywhere. I see problems everywhere, Maya corrected. But problems are just solutions waiting to be discovered. The question is whether you want someone who'll tell you what you want to hear, or someone who'll tell you what you need to know. Sarah was silent for a long moment, staring at the device. We've been approaching this all wrong, haven't we? Not wrong, Maya said gently. Just incomplete. You build something that works, but works isn't the same as helpful. Sometimes the most helpful thing is to make people a little uncomfortable with their assumptions. Like what you're doing to me right now. Like what's happening between us right now, Maya nodded. This isn't an interview anymore. It's a collaboration. You're not evaluating whether I can do the job. We're discovering what the job actually is. Sarah's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it briefly. I have another meeting in 10 minutes, but before you go, what would you need to completely reimagine this project? Maya felt that familiar sensation of possibility opening up, like a door she hadn't noticed before suddenly swinging wide. Time to fail fast and learn faster. A team that values questions more than answers, and the freedom to build something that might not work the way we expect, but works the way people actually need it to. When can you start? The question hung in the air like a soap bubble. Beautiful, impossible, and fragile. Maya realized she was holding her breath. Did you just offer you a job without a formal interview, background check, or any of the normal hiring protocols? Yes. Is this completely against company policy? Absolutely. Am I going to have to convince my CEO that hiring someone based on a philosophical conversation about GPS metaphors is actually brilliant? Definitely. Maya laughed, a sound that surprised her with its genuine joy. This is either the luckiest moment of my life or the most elaborate prank Alex has ever pulled. Why not both? Sarah grinned. Welcome to Neurotech, where we turn assumptions inside out and see what falls out of their pockets. But as Maya would soon discover, getting the opportunity was just the beginning. The real challenge was learning to trust that she deserved it. 6 weeks into her new role as Director of Unreasonable Questions, an actual job title that Sarah had invented specifically for Maya, Maya was discovering that success was far more uncomfortable than failure had ever been. Failure, at least, came with the comfort of familiar disappointment and the luxury of blaming external forces. Success demanded something much more terrifying, taking responsibility for what happened next. She was hunched over a laptop in Neurotech's thinking pod, a soundproof booth that looked like a spaceship designed by someone with severe commitment issues. When Alex appeared outside the glass wall, making exaggerated hand gestures that roughly translated to emerge from your hermit cave, "You antisocial genius. You've been in there for 4 hours," Alex said as Maya reluctantly emerged. At what point does deep thinking become elaborate procrastination? When you start questioning whether your thoughts are thinking themselves, Maya replied, stretching muscles that had apparently fossilized while she wasn't paying attention. I think I've been staring at this problem so long that it started staring back. Ah, the classic philosopher's dilemma. Alex nodded sagely. What's the problem that's achieved sentience? Maya led him to the whiteboard where she'd been mapping out the psychology of decision-making, creating what looked like a family tree designed by someone having an existential crisis. So, you know how Arya was supposed to help people make better decisions? Well, we've completely flipped the concept. Instead of giving answers, we're building something that helps people ask better questions about their own thought processes. Sounds very Socratic of you, right? Except Socrates never had to worry about user retention metrics and monetization strategies. Here's the thing. We've created something that actually works. Our beta users are reporting increased confidence in their decision-making, better understanding of their own biases, and what they describe as clarity without certainty. But there's always a but. But success terrifies me more than failure ever did. When I was failing, I could blame luck, timing, the universe's apparent sense of humor. Now that something's working, I have to confront the possibility that maybe I actually know what I'm doing. And that's genuinely terrifying. Alex settled into one of the unnecessarily ergonomic chairs that probably cost more than Maya's old car. You know what this is, right? You're experiencing success vertigo. Success vertigo. It's like regular vertigo, but instead of being afraid of falling from a great height, you're afraid of succeeding from a great potential. You've spent so long identifying as someone who struggles that you don't know how to identify as someone who thrives. Maya considered this, unconsciously drawing circles on the whiteboard. That's annoyingly insightful, but there's more to it. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, like surely the universe realizes it made a mistake and is going to course correct by firing me spectacularly. Or, Alex suggested, maybe the universe doesn't make mistakes. Maybe it just takes a while for the right opportunities to find the right people. That sounds suspiciously optimistic coming from you. I prefer realistically hopeful. See, here's what I've been thinking about since you started this job. Remember how you used to complain that opportunities never came your way? But what if they were always there, and you just weren't positioned to see them? Maya paused her doodling. Position how? Think about it. 3 months ago, you wouldn't have been ready for this conversation with Sarah. You needed those 17 rejections to develop the perspective that makes you valuable here. You needed to be frustrated with traditional approaches to be motivated to find better ones. Every failure was actually preparation for this moment. So you're saying my misery was productive? I'm saying your misery was informative. There's a difference. Misery becomes productive when you use it to understand something important about how the world works. Otherwise, it's just misery. Maya walked to the window, looking out at the city where millions of people were presumably having their own existential crises in cubicles and coffee shops. But that implies a level of intentionality that makes me uncomfortable. Like everything happens for a reason, and we're all just playing out some cosmic script. No, everything happens for a cause. Reasons are what we construct afterward to make sense of the causes. You didn't get rejected 17 times because the universe had a plan. You got rejected 17 times because there was a mismatch between what you were offering and what they were looking for. The reason, the meaning, is what you made from that experience. And what did I make from it? Alex grinned. You made yourself into someone who questions everything, including success. Do you realize how rare that is? Most people get successful and immediately start trying to preserve and protect what they've achieved. You got successful and immediately started wondering if you deserve it and how to make it better. Maya returned to the whiteboard, staring at her decision-making map. Actually, that gives me an idea about Arya. What if instead of just helping people make decisions, we help them understand the stories they tell themselves about their choices? Explain. Okay, so when someone makes a decision, they create a narrative about why they made it. I chose this job because it pays well, or I moved to this city because I wanted adventure. But those stories are often post hoc rationalizations. The real reasons might be much messier. Fear, social pressure, random circumstances. And knowing the difference matters because if you understand your actual motivations, you can make more intentional choices going forward. Instead of being driven by unconscious patterns, you can actively choose your patterns. Alex's eyes lit up with recognition. You're talking about metacognition, thinking about thinking. Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. What if good luck is just metacognition applied to opportunity recognition? People who seem lucky aren't actually luckier. They're just better at noticing and acting on possibilities that other people miss. Maya began sketching rapidly on the whiteboard, her excitement building. Look, imagine two people walking down the same street. Person A is focused on getting to their destination as efficiently as possible. Person B is paying attention to their environment. They notice the help wanted sign in the window, overhear a conversation about a project that interests them, spot a book in a storefront that sparks an idea. Person B seems luckier, but really they just have a wider attention span. Right, and that's trainable. Arya could help people develop what we might call luck literacy, the ability to recognize and create conditions where interesting opportunities are more likely to emerge. Alex was quiet for a moment, processing the implications. So you're saying luck is a skill? I'm saying good luck is a practice. It's about consistently creating conditions where positive, unexpected things can happen. It's about planting seeds in gardens you might never see bloom, having conversations that might lead nowhere, but often lead somewhere interesting, saying yes to invitations that seem pointless but sometimes aren't. That's either profound or complete nonsense, Alex observed. Why not both? Maya laughed. The best ideas usually sound like nonsense until they don't. She turned back to the whiteboard, adding new connections between concepts. You know what's funny? 6 months ago, I would have dismissed this entire conversation as privileged wishful thinking. Easy to talk about creating opportunities when you already have them. I would have said, and now? Now I think I was partially right and mostly wrong. Yes, systemic inequalities are real, and some people face barriers others don't. But within whatever constraints exist, there's still room for agency. There's still space to plant seeds, ask different questions, notice things that others miss. Maya stepped back from the whiteboard, surveying the complex web of ideas she'd created. Maybe that's what good luck really is. The intersection of preparation, attention, and courage. Preparation creates competence, attention creates awareness, and courage creates action. And bad luck is what we call it when we're not prepared, not paying attention, or not willing to act on what we notice. Maya paused, struck by her own words. Holy shit, Alex. I think we just solved the problem. Which problem? There are so many. The problem of how to help people take more responsibility for their outcomes without blaming them for their circumstances. Arya doesn't need to make people luckier. It needs to help them understand how luck actually works. Alex stood up, stretching. You realize what this means, right? That I'm going to spend the next 6 months rebuilding everything we've already built. That you stopped waiting for permission to be brilliant. Maya looked at her reflection in the darkened window, surprised to recognize the person looking back at her. When did that happen? Probably around the time you started treating your problems like puzzles instead of punishments. But understanding how luck works and actually implementing that understanding are two very different things, as Maya was about to discover. 2 months later, Maya stood before Neuroteca's board of directors, about to present the most important pitch of her professional life. Aria 2.0, now rebranded as Lucky, was ready for launch, but first she had to convince a room full of venture capitalists that teaching people about luck was actually a viable business model. Let me ask you a question, Maya began, abandoning her prepared slides entirely. How many of you consider yourselves lucky? Every hand in the room went up, which was statistically improbable and philosophically fascinating. Interesting. Now, how many of you believe luck played a role in your success? The hand stayed up, though with slightly less enthusiasm. And how many of you would invest in a product that promised to make other people luckier? The hands wavered, some dropping, others hesitating. Maya had their attention. Here's the paradox, she continued, warming to her subject. You all acknowledge that luck influences your outcomes, but you're skeptical about luck as an investable concept. Why? Because we've been thinking about luck wrong. She clicked to her first slide, which simply read, "Luck is not random. Luck is relational." Traditional thinking treats luck as something that happens to us, a cosmic roll of the dice. But our research shows that what we call luck is actually the result of specific, learnable behaviors that increase the probability of positive, unexpected outcomes. Sarah Kim, sitting in the front row, nodded encouragingly. The investors looked intrigued but unconvinced. Maya clicked to the next slide. User testimonials from the beta test. Sarah, 34, marketing executive. Lucky helped me realize I was missing opportunities because I was too focused on avoiding risks. Now I notice possibilities I never saw before. Marcus, 41, software engineer. I thought networking was fake. Lucky showed me how to have genuine conversations that accidentally turn into professional opportunities. These aren't random people who got lucky, Maya explained. These are people who learned to create conditions where luck was more likely to happen. And the results are measurable. She presented the data. Beta users showed a 47% increase in self-reported opportunity recognition, a 32% improvement in decision satisfaction, and most remarkably, a 23% increase in what researchers called serendipitous encounters, meaningful connections or discoveries that emerge from seemingly random interactions. But here's what's really interesting, Maya continued. The users who saw the biggest improvements weren't the ones who were already successful. They were the ones who had previously considered themselves unlucky. An investor in the back raised her hand. This sounds like positive thinking repackaged as technology. Maya smiled. She'd been expecting this. I used to think the same thing. But there's a crucial difference between positive thinking and what we're calling luck literacy. Positive thinking says good things will happen if you believe they will. Luck literacy says good things are more likely to happen if you create conditions that increase their probability. She clicked to her favorite slide, a diagram showing the 3 components of manufactured serendipity. First, surface area expansion, putting yourself in situations where interesting things might happen. Second, pattern recognition, developing the ability to notice opportunities disguised as problems. Third, activation energy, having the courage to act on possibilities even when the outcome is uncertain. The room was quiet, processing this framework. None of this guarantees success, Maya continued. What it does is increase the likelihood that success finds you when you're ready for it. It's not about controlling outcomes. It's about influencing probabilities. The CEO of their largest potential client partner, who had been silent throughout the presentation, finally spoke up. Maya, this is fascinating from a philosophical perspective, but what's the business model? How do we monetize teaching people to be luckier? Maya had been dreading and anticipating this question in equal measure. We don't monetize luck. We monetize the skills that create luck. Lucky isn't a fortune-telling app. It's a metacognitive fitness trainer. It helps people develop better judgment, broader awareness, and more intentional action. She clicked to her final slide, the revenue projections. Corporate training market, $350 billion annually. Personal development market, $11 billion annually. Decision-making tools market, $2.8 billion annually. Lucky sits at the intersection of all three. But more importantly, Maya added, we're not just building a product. We're changing how people think about agency and opportunity. We're helping people move from feeling like victims of circumstance to feeling like co-creators of their experience. The room erupted in questions, which Maya fielded with a confidence that surprised even her. As the meeting concluded and investors filed out, making excited phone calls to their partners, Sarah approached her. That was incredible, Sarah said. 6 months ago, you were convinced you were unlucky. Now you're teaching other people how to create their own luck. How does that feel? Maya considered the question. Terrifying and exhilarating. Like I've been handed the keys to a car. I'm not sure I know how to drive. But you're driving it anyway. I'm learning to drive it by driving it, Maya corrected, which is apparently how everything important gets learned. As they walked out of the conference room, Maya realized something profound had shifted. She wasn't waiting for luck to find her anymore. She was actively participating in creating the conditions where luck could emerge. And that, she thought, might be the most important skill anyone could develop. But the real test wasn't convincing investors. It was living up to her own teachings when the stakes were highest. 3 years later, Maya was back in the same coffee shop where this story began, but sitting across from a different person, a young entrepreneur named David who reminded her uncomfortably of her former self. He was explaining, with the passionate intensity of someone defending their worldview, why his startup had failed due to bad timing, market conditions, and general cosmic unfairness. So you're telling me, Maya said gently, that luck doesn't exist, but you're unlucky? David paused mid-sentence, recognizing the paradox. Here's what I've learned, Maya continued, about the difference between luck and good luck. Luck implies randomness, things happening to you without your participation. Good luck implies partnership, you and the universe collaborating on possibilities neither of you could create alone. She pulled out her phone, showing him the Lucky app interface. We've helped over 2 million people understand this distinction, not by promising them lottery wins or perfect outcomes, but by teaching them to plant seeds in gardens they might never see bloom. David looked skeptical but curious. And this actually works? Maya smiled, remembering her own skepticism. It works if you work it. The universe is under no obligation to make your dreams come true, but it is remarkably responsive to genuine effort, authentic curiosity, and the courage to act on imperfect information. As David downloaded the app, Maya realized she was witnessing the moment when someone stops being a victim of their circumstances and starts being a co-creator of their possibilities. It was, she thought, the most beautiful kind of luck there was. The kind you make for yourself, one choice at a time. And if you found yourself nodding along to this story, maybe it's time to ask, what seeds are you planting today?